Imagine this. You're at Chicago O'Hare Airport. Your flight boards in 12 minutes. You've already cleared security. Your phone is down to 8%. You haven't had a drink in hours. Then you spot it. A refrigerator packed with ice-cold bottles of water. Without thinking, you grab one. The cashier scans it. $4.79. For just a moment, your brain pushes back. Almost $5 for water? You know it's expensive. You know the same amount of water at home costs only a few cents. And yet, 5 seconds later, you've already paid. You twist the cap, take a sip, and immediately move on with your day. No second thoughts, no regrets. Just another ordinary purchase. Or so it seems, because the moment you stop questioning that price, the business behind it becomes invisible. And the most profitable businesses are often the ones people never notice. Here's a strange question. What if I told you the water wasn't actually the product? Not the bottle, not the cap, not even the label. So what did you really buy? It sounds impossible. After all, it's called bottled water. Of course you're paying for the water, right? Not exactly. Because by the end of this documentary, you'll look at this ordinary plastic bottle in a completely different way. The most valuable thing inside it isn't the water. It's the business system wrapped around it. So let's do something unusual. Instead of talking about the bottled water industry, let's follow a single bottle, the one you're holding right now. At this moment, it's cold, perfectly sealed, comfortably resting in your hand. But rewind the clock just 48 hours. That same bottle wasn't sitting in an airport refrigerator, it was waiting inside a regional distribution warehouse. Go back another day. It was riding inside a truck, heading toward retailers across the country. Go back even further, and it was racing through a bottling plant at astonishing speed. A few hours before that, it wasn't even a bottle. It was nothing more than tiny plastic pellets and purified water waiting for production. By the time it reached your hand, this simple bottle had already traveled through multiple industries, across hundreds of miles, and through the hands of dozens of businesses. Every stop along that journey generated revenue for someone. That's the story we're about to uncover. Here's what makes bottled water one of the smartest business models ever created. Its main ingredient is incredibly inexpensive, yet consumers spend billions of dollars every year buying bottled water. How can something so ordinary become such an extraordinary business? Because companies discovered one simple truth. People rarely buy products. They buy solutions. When you're hiking on a hot afternoon, you're not buying water. You're buying relief. When you've just cleared airport security, you're not buying water. You're buying convenience. When you're watching a baseball game, you're not buying water. You're buying the ability to stay in your seat instead of missing the next inning searching for a drinking fountain. The bottle solves a problem, and the more urgent that problem becomes, the less important the price feels. Think about that. The exact same bottle that seems outrageously expensive in your kitchen can feel completely reasonable at gate B17. Nothing inside the bottle changed. Only your circumstances did. That's one of the oldest principles in business. Value isn't created only by what's being sold. It's created by when, where, and how badly someone needs it. That single idea has helped build a global bottled water industry worth hundreds of billions of dollars. And we're only getting started. Now look at this bottle one more time. It's light, mostly transparent. You could finish it in just a few minutes. At first glance, it looks like one of the simplest products you can buy, but appearances can be deceiving. Hidden inside this ordinary bottle is one of the most sophisticated business systems in modern retail. Before it ever reached your hand, oil companies supplied the raw materials for the plastic. Chemical manufacturers transformed those materials into resin. Packaging companies produced the bottle and the cap. Water treatment facilities prepared the water. Bottling plants filled and sealed it. Trucking companies transported it across highways. Distribution centers sorted and redirected it. Retailers gave it valuable shelf space. Airport operators kept it cold. Marketing teams built a brand you would recognize in seconds. Every one of those businesses earned money, long before you took your very first sip. That's why calling this the bottled water business is actually misleading. Because this isn't just a water business. It's a logistics business, a manufacturing business, a branding business, a retail business, a psychology business, and perhaps most importantly, a convenience business, all hidden inside a single bottle. Think about it. If the water alone created the value, every bottle should cost about the same. But they don't. One bottle sells for $1.19. Another sells for $2.99. Another costs $5.99. And in luxury hotels or fine dining restaurants, some bottles cost more than an entire meal. How is that possible? The answer has surprisingly little to do with the water itself. Instead, it comes down to something far more powerful: where you buy it, when you buy it, and what you believe you're buying. Because in business, the product people hold in their hands isn't always the product they're paying for. The bottle is physical, but the real value is invisible. Availability, trust, brand recognition, convenience. The confidence that no matter where you are, an airport, a highway rest stop, a hospital, a stadium, or a neighborhood convenience store, a familiar bottle will already be waiting for you. That kind of availability doesn't happen by accident. It takes years of investment. Factories, warehouses, delivery networks, retail partnerships, cold storage, advertising, thousands of employees, and millions of perfectly timed decisions happening behind the scenes every single day. Customers rarely notice any of it. They simply reach into the cooler, grab a bottle, pay, and move on. When a business becomes that effortless, it's easy to mistake simplicity for simplicity of operation. In reality, the simpler the customer experience feels, the more complex the system behind it usually is. And bottled water may be one of the best examples of that principle. So before we uncover the factories, the trucks, and the massive supply chain powering this industry, we need to answer an even more important question. If many bottles contain remarkably similar water, why do millions of people willingly pay different prices for different brands? The answer isn't hiding inside the bottle. It's hiding inside your mind. Before we continue following our bottle, let's make one stop. Walk into a typical Walmart. Head to the beverage aisle. Now pause. Don't grab a bottle, just look. Dozens of brands sit side by side. Dasani, Aquafina, Smartwater, Fiji Water, Evian, Poland Spring. They all promise one simple thing: hydration. Yet their prices can be dramatically different. Some bottles cost around $1, others cost $3, $5, or even more. Here's the fascinating part. Chemically speaking, they're all selling the same molecule, H2O. So why doesn't every bottle have the same price? Because you're not comparing water, you're comparing perception. Imagine I place two identical glasses in front of you. One was poured from a premium bottle. The other came from a budget brand. I remove every label. No logos, no packaging, no clues. Could you confidently tell which one was more expensive? Most people believe they could. But in blind taste tests, that confidence often disappears. Because the biggest difference isn't always on your tongue. It's in your expectations. Your brain starts making decisions long before the water reaches your mouth. A clean, minimalist label, a picture of snow-covered mountains, words like natural spring, artesian, electrolyte enhanced. Those words don't make you less thirsty, but they shape what you expect before you take the first sip. And expectations have enormous power. Studies across many consumer products have shown that when people believe something is premium, they often report enjoying it more, even when the product itself changes very little. That's why branding isn't decoration, it's value creation. Take Fiji Water. Its marketing rarely begins with chemistry. Instead, it tells a story. A remote tropical island, rainwater naturally filtered through layers of volcanic rock, an untouched artesian aquifer. Whether customers remember every detail isn't the point. They remember the feeling. This must be special. Now compare that with Aquafina. Its story has traditionally focused on purification, consistency, and reliability. Different message, different positioning, different customer. Neither company is simply selling water. Each is selling a different reason to choose it. That's why companies spend millions building brands, because when products become similar, the story becomes the competitive advantage. But branding is only part of the equation. Walk down that same aisle again. You're not looking at one market. You're looking at 5 different business models. The first is purified water. Its promise is consistency. Whether you buy it in New York, Texas, or California, customers expect it to taste exactly the same. Consistency builds trust, and trust creates repeat customers. The second is spring water. Here, the source becomes part of the product. The mountain, the spring, the landscape. Nature itself becomes a marketing asset, because many consumers associate natural origins with higher quality. The third is mineral water. Instead of removing naturally occurring minerals, it celebrates them. Calcium, magnesium, other dissolved minerals. For customers, those minerals represent authenticity. For businesses, they justify premium pricing. Then comes enhanced water, electrolytes, added vitamins, alkaline formulas, performance-focused branding. This category doesn't just sell hydration. It sells the idea of becoming healthier, smarter, or more active. Finally, there's luxury water. This is where business becomes pure psychology. Elegant glass bottles, minimalist design, fine dining restaurants, luxury hotels, celebrity endorsements, exclusive events. At this level, the bottle isn't competing with tap water. It's competing with other luxury products. Because luxury rarely wins by offering more function. It wins by creating more meaning. A designer handbag carries your belongings. A basic bag does exactly the same. A luxury watch tells time. So does an inexpensive digital watch. And an expensive bottle of water still quenches thirst, just like the most affordable one on the shelf. The difference isn't utility, it's perception. And stories are remarkably profitable, because once customers believe the story, the price becomes much easier to accept. But here's the surprising twist. Even after the branding, the advertising, the bottle design, and the marketing campaigns, the water itself is still one of the least expensive parts of the final product. So where does the rest of your money go? To answer that, we have to leave the supermarket. Walk inside a massive bottling plant and step into the invisible machine that turns pennies into dollars. Let's leave the supermarket. Our bottle isn't on the shelf anymore. We're going backwards, past the checkout counter, past the stockroom, past the delivery truck, until we arrive at a massive bottling plant somewhere in the United States. From the outside, it doesn't look extraordinary. A few loading docks, long rows of trailers, employees walking between buildings. It could be almost any factory. But step inside, and you're looking at one of the most efficient consumer product operations in the world. Conveyor belts stretch across the facility. Thousands of empty bottles move in perfect rhythm. Robotic arms lift, sort, and position products with remarkable precision. High-speed filling machines produce tens of thousands of bottles every hour. Every movement is carefully timed because even tiny improvements in efficiency save companies millions of dollars every year. The goal isn't to make one perfect bottle. It's to make millions of identical bottles, as efficiently, as safely, as consistently as possible. Now take a closer look at the bottle itself. It's lightweight, transparent, easy to carry, so ordinary that most people never think twice about it. But this bottle has a surprisingly complex origin. Before reaching the factory, the bottle itself began as crude oil or natural gas. These raw materials were refined into PET plastic, turned into tiny pellets, and molded into small tube-shaped pieces called preforms. If you've never seen one, it doesn't even resemble a bottle. It looks more like a thick plastic test tube with a threaded neck. Then comes one of the most fascinating steps in modern manufacturing. The preform is heated until it softens. Placed inside a precision metal mold, high-pressure air rushes inside, and in less than 2 seconds, it expands into the familiar bottle you recognize instantly. Before a single drop of water enters the bottle, entire industries have already contributed to its creation. Energy, chemicals, engineering, manufacturing, packaging, transportation. Each one adds value. Each one earns revenue. Now the empty bottles move toward the filling line. Depending on the brand, the water is purified, filtered, or prepared according to that company's specific process. The bottles are rinsed, filled, sealed, labeled, packed into cases, then inspected again because even a single quality failure can damage years of customer trust. Now let's talk about something most people never consider: transportation. Water is extremely heavy. A truck usually reaches its legal weight limit long before it runs out of space. That makes transportation one of the industry's biggest operating costs. To reduce those costs, bottling plants are strategically located close to major population centers. Even a shorter delivery distance can save millions of dollars over time. Suddenly, the location of a factory becomes just as important as the quality of the water itself. Our bottle now arrives at a regional distribution center. Forklifts move constantly. Pallets arrive, pallets leave. From here, bottles are shipped to supermarkets, airports, hotels, hospitals, stadiums, offices, and vending machines. Notice what's really happening. The company isn't simply distributing water, it's distributing availability. Because a bottle sitting inside a warehouse has almost no value. A bottle sitting inside a refrigerator, exactly where someone becomes thirsty, can be sold within seconds. Shelf placement matters. Cold bottles, eye-level displays, and checkout coolers dramatically increase sales. Companies compete aggressively for those positions because availability often matters more than the product itself. The companies that master distribution don't just reach more customers, they reach them at exactly the right moment. And timing is often more profitable than perfection. We've now followed our bottle through factories, packaging, transportation, warehouses, and retail networks. We've seen how an inexpensive product becomes a nationwide business. But one mystery still remains. If two companies can produce remarkably similar bottles using highly efficient factories and nearly identical distribution systems, why does one company consistently earn more than another? The answer isn't hidden inside the factory. It isn't hidden inside the truck. And it isn't hidden inside the bottle. It's hidden in one of the most valuable competitive advantages any business can build: owning the customer's trust before the customer ever reaches for the shelf. So let's answer the question we started with. Who actually made money from your $4.79? Most people point to the brand printed on the label, but the reality is much bigger. That single purchase supported an entire business ecosystem. The oil and chemical companies that supplied the raw materials, the manufacturers that produced the bottle and cap, the engineers who designed the production equipment, the bottling plant that filled and sealed it, the trucking companies that transported it, the warehouses that stored it, the retailers that displayed it, the airport that provided the location, and finally, the brand that earned enough of your trust to be the bottle you reached for. Your money didn't go to one company. It flowed through an entire network. Now imagine two bottled water businesses. The first makes exceptional water with premium branding, but it's available in only a few hundred stores. The second sells perfectly good water, nothing extraordinary, but it's available almost everywhere. In most cases, the second company wins, not because its water is better, because it's easier to buy. Now let's look at that $4.79 price tag one last time. You weren't paying only for water. You were paying for manufacturing, quality control, packaging, transportation, warehousing, distribution, retail shelf space, and the convenience of having a cold bottle exactly when you needed it. The bottle in your hand proves that. It's not a miracle of chemistry. It's a masterpiece of logistics. Branding, psychology, manufacturing, and distribution. The bottled water business was never really selling water. It was selling convenience, trust, and certainty. Behind every ordinary bottle is an extraordinary business system that ensures the product is waiting exactly when you need it. And that's what makes bottled water one of the greatest business models ever created.